It's a real shame in looking back how unexciting it is knowing Oklahoma State is coming to Eugene, Oregon, because I think we all, whether you like the Ducks or don't like the Ducks, when Gundy's popping off about NIL and Lanning's popping 14 zins, as Josh Pate described it, it just feels like they are going to try to win that game 60-17.
Yes.
And so, that's a game that you look at a couple years ago and go, oh, Oklahoma State coming to Eugene?
Yeah, when they scheduled it, it was that's not a bad little non-conference game. It's very similar to when they played Tennessee in the home-to-home.
Yeah.
Because when they scheduled Tennessee, you're like, oh, dang, you're going to Knoxville? You're playing the Vols at Autzen? How cool is that going to be? And at that point, it was as down to the dumps in Tennessee as you could possibly get.
And it kind of feels like that's where Oklahoma State is, despite them winning last week. They lost their starting quarterback. He's out.
Yes, they did.
So they had a backup making his debut, and they've got the shoplifter, or whatever the hell his crime was, that's traveled with them, but we don't know if he's going to play. Larceny.
Am I an idiot for not knowing what larceny is? I've heard larceny a million times.
It's theft.
Theft, okay.
I don't know what specifically makes a
I
theft
call it shoplifting,
larceny,
but if you want to just use larceny to cover
I saw he
it
was
all.
arrested for larceny, and I've heard that phrase a million times, but I've never connected the dots
It's
of what
stealing.
it meant. It's just stealing something.
I don't
probably
know
went to
what
Walmart and stole something.
Yeah.
God forbid you spend your NIL money on anything. But then again, they might not have any at Oklahoma State because
no,
they're poor.
They are poor.
I just, it's one of those, I'm not faulting the Ducks here at all.
No.
If they win that game 60-17, I'm not going to come money, but, well, they're playing nobody. They scheduled that game. It looked good when they scheduled it. He's just got him in the dumps, and he feels like he's a coach that's going to be on the way out if they're not better than 8-4.
The sad reality for the sport is the last two teams who have won a national championship played literally nobody in non-conference. Michigan 2 years ago and Ohio State last year. Now, to be fair to both of them, I think they had to opt out of games because of the conference realignment stuff, but this is the world we live in now where teams you're not going to apologize for an easy 3-0 start, and it does seem like Oregon will have that. I guess it'd be 4-0 because the last non-conference games after a Big Ten game. It is funny because I forgot, and some of the reading into this game this week, I forgot how bad Oklahoma State was last year.
They were horrific.
And maybe
and
you
they
guys
came in
remember,
with hype. Remember
they
that?
Did. They came in with hype.
The whole offensive line and all that stuff.
Remember the running back was back, and he had got the DUI, and Gundy had the
Ollie
comments
Gordon.
at Big 12 Media
Yes.
Days of, well, who hasn't had a couple of pops and driven around? You're like, I mean, you're not wrong. You just don't say that as head coach of a team, man. That's not a great sign at the start of the season. They didn't win a conference game last year. It's gotten ugly, and you got a backup quarterback coming to town making his first start on the road at Autzen Stadium in one of the toughest places to play.
Yeah.
It's a 12:30 kick. The weather's going to be perfect.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody's charged up, and then you've added the extra element of Gundy with his comments where now it's a little more personal than maybe it was a week ago. I'm excited to see a couple of things. One, how does the rotation pare down, if at all? Is it the same? I think Lanning told Isaac and Suk yesterday they played 77 guys, I think was his number.
Yeah, I think that's what he said.
In week one, and so is it 77 again? Does that not happen until the second half if the game gets out of hand? Are you playing that many guys in the first half? Do you have more of a set rotation on certain positions like running back, wide receiver, corner, where they truly rotated a lot of bodies throughout the course of week one? So there's that. And then just, look, Oklahoma State's a really bad program right now. They're in a tough spot, and Gundy's definitely going to get fired in the not-too-distant future. He has already taken a pay cut, and when you do that, that means you're on the brink of getting fired. But at least it's Division I football bodies, and so can you go do that again, what you did last weekend? Because they look great against Montana State, but we all had the caveat, it's Montana State. Now, we will have that same caveat if they do it against Oklahoma State because they're not a good team, but at least it's Division I talent to go beat up on and say, look at that, we took a team from the Big 12 and threw them in the wood chipper.
Lanning is on every Thursday at 4 with Isaac and Suk. If you missed that conversation from yesterday, you can find it at 105.1 The Fan. I think Sukanik had asked the question, not directly about the comments because he already made the comments, so I thought it was smart of Sukanik not just regurgitate the same question because Lanning, but he kind of asked in a roundabout way of some coaches are coming out now and they're just like, well, so-and-so spending blank amount of millions and right. It's not fair. And
as if the sport hasn't always been that way.
I know. It's
as
so
if
ridiculous.
When Oregon State went to Ohio State and Swag was there in the shoe years ago in Smith's first year,
right.
They were playing with the same budget and the same sport.
Exactly.
This is how college football's always operated.
And so he basically was like, just what do you make of coaches popping off about this? And dude, he was this close. Lanning was like, oh, well, I got an answer, but I don't want to say it. And I was like, no. I even text Suk. I'm like, a long-winded podcast where you have more than 12 minutes and he's not playing the team.
Yeah.
I think he gives you that answer, which, that's going to be a great answer when he does give it. But I think it's just one, he doesn't want to put anything out there. He's got his bulletin board material. Not that these coaches are winning games based on that, but he got what he needed, and he ain't giving him anything. Yeah. And I think that's a smart move by Lanning. You're not wrong in the whole Division I versus FCS, and I still think the score could be very similar.
Very well could be. The spread's the same in Vegas.
Which is crazy to me.
28.5.
It's the same number. What is something you look for? Because I think they're going to blow them out. I think we're going to come in Monday. And look, if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But I think we come in and we say, hey, Dante had a good game. And the running game still looks good. And, man, look how they fly around. Yeah. I don't know if I'm going to come in Monday You're not shocked or surprised by anything, but is there anything you're specifically looking for based on what you saw last week?
No.
Now playing a quote-unquote more talented team this week.
Outside of the rotations and how they look, there's not really a complex answer there. There just isn't. Unless there's the shocking result of why was that game close and uncomfortable? How did Oklahoma State hang around? Like if you get one of those games, which it's college football, you never know. Nobody saw Idaho or Boise State necessarily coming at the start of the year.
Sure.
So unless you get one of those kind of games, I think Oregon's in this position right now where it's essentially about staying healthy, figuring out your rotations, and you got another 22 days until your season begins. That's just the start of their year. Oklahoma State struggled with UT Martin in week 1. They pulled away late. Now they're playing with a backup quarterback. Next week, you go on the road to Northwestern. Anybody who watched Northwestern in week 1 on the road to Tulane, they look horrible.
There might be more Duck fans at that game next week.
It's in Chicago. Why would you not make the trip?
That's a trip I would
go
want
see a
to
Cub
do.
game. Like, hey,
the weather's perfect.
Dude, weather's perfect.
If
you're not
getting
lake
into that
effect
stadium,
snow.
it's right on the lake. It's
right on the lake.
Gorgeous. It's small.
They
but
suck so bad, dude.
And then the week after that, you get Oregon State, who
they will handle that.
Yeah,
game.
we'll get to that, and it's at Autzen.
And then you get Penn State.
You don't really learn anything about this team over the next 3 weeks. It's kind of the tough part about their schedule.
Yeah.
That I would love to have a big game, but it's nice to be 4-0.
Well,
but you never count your chickens before they hatch. But to answer your question, outside of rotations and what is it? Does 7 running backs get carries again? Is it only 4? Is it 2 in the first half and then the other guys get them when it's a 30-point game in the second half? Those are the kind of things that I'm curious to see.
So what I would say to that though too is you might not rotations. Maybe you figure that out. Your depth gets a little more hammered down
because they're not going to play 77 guys when they go to Penn State.
Well, no, but what I would say is though leading into Penn State, if they handle their business the way we feel like they will, and then they go to Northwestern and whoop their ass because they're terrible. And then they handle the Beavers at home the way that at least it looks on paper, they should.
Probably should.
You go into Penn State with at least clarity of what young players do you feel like you can trust going into this because they've had the reps. And I thought Lanning talked about that yesterday.
Dude, it's huge getting those guys reps.
That's the thing of this is you might not as a fan go, well, yeah, we won 65-20. And that's kind of it, right? They look good. They look the part. They got the talent. But what they're taking away internally is, man, this freshman and this sophomore and that sophomore and this transfer, hey, they're doing things that we need to see for them to actually get on the field with meaningful snaps.
The first month is essentially an open tryout, I would imagine, because everybody was very closely clumped together out of fall camp, and they feel Lanning uses the phrase above-the-line players. They feel like they have more than they've ever had there, and I talked about that going into the year. But again, you're not going to play that many guys, so to your point, you got to pare it down a little bit and figure out which guys will be the best.
I would add, too, you could have done this last year because they went undefeated in the Big Ten and they went undefeated and won the conference. And so winning the Big Ten year 1 is amazing, especially with an undefeated season. This week might also be another voila moment of my God, look how he has built this program up from when he got it. Because when you handle an Oklahoma State team, if they do handle it the way we think, it's going to be dude, Oklahoma State they were pretty good 2 years ago.
We're not that far removed from Oklahoma State being a good program.
No, we're not.
Last year hit the side of a mountain.
Yeah, they've hit the side of the mountain, and he's hit the skids, and he seems like he's on his way out. But it's still a Big 12 team that you might absolutely pummel into oblivion, which when you're watching major college football, and we'll watch it this weekend, you'll see other pretty big, powerful programs do the same thing to even lesser teams in Oklahoma State. And so I just think it's one of those man, he's building this thing up real nice.
I mean, I think you're going to get a lot of reminders of that this year, and it's one of the reasons we talked about going into the season, the depth being better than it ever had been, the young talent showing they can be impact players right away. Like I saw some of their young corners, Naeem Offer, Brandon Finney, were standout guys in week one as true freshmen right out of the gate. So seeing how they handle the challenge of a team that will test you vertically and will throw the football down the field more so than Montana State did, I'm excited to see how those guys face what Thieneman looks like in the secondary against an offense that will try and go up tempo and again take their shots. It is wild when you look at Oklahoma State. Gundy took over there in 2005. That was his first year. They went 4-7, right? You kind of throw that first year out the window.
God, he's been there since I graduated high school.
From 2006 all the way to 2023, they made a bowl game every year.
Yeah.
Until last year. The only time in his entire career at Oklahoma State that they did not win at least 7 games was his first year in 2005. And last year they went 3-9 and 0-9 in conference. They didn't win a single Big 12 game last year.
What do you think? It's not money. He claims it's money, and maybe they're not spending the way other programs are. They have money. It's ridiculous what he says, but
yes, he bragged all offseason about how much money they spent on the roster and how they were slow to the NIL game, and now we're spending an NIL.
Isn't it funny or interesting to you watching programs like that like you show that track record of stability and consistency, and you say you had something right, and you can say, well, it's the NIL world and all these people. Bagmen have existed forever in the sport. It's just how, like, when it becomes legalized, how some colleges just can't
figure it out.
Yeah, they can't.
They don't have their ducks in a row. They don't.
Yeah, but like when it's not quote unquote legal, the town that Blackman and Whedon and
right.
You know what I mean? They have like some really and you're
Des Bryant. I remember
Bryant.
when Oregon played Oklahoma State in the Holiday Bowl in 2000 and it was Belotti's last game, 2008. It's a memorable game because there's great highlights.
That's
of
right.
Masoli running over people and LeGarrette Blunt hurtling and stiff arming people. Jeremiah Johnson was awesome in that game. Like that was a good program, dude. It has been for a long time.
That was a really good win for them
from
because
15
of that.
and on. 2015 10 wins. Next year 10 wins. Next year 10 wins. 7 wins. 8 wins. 8 wins. 12 wins. 7 wins. 10 wins in 2023 and then 3 wins last year. Yeah. So it just cratered. And if he has another year, which it seems like he will, if they get punked this weekend, it's a tough start to their year. I also like the comments from him. Some people have tried to argue it's just him trying to activate his donor base of like, see what Oregon has. We want to get there. You got to donate more money. I also think it's a really bad look, though, internally. Like in that locker room, if I'm hearing that comment and I'm on the Oklahoma State football team, part of me is hearing my coach doesn't think we have a chance to win. Of like, well, they spent $40 million on the roster, which they didn't. Nobody spends $40 million on the roster. But the thought of like, we're not even in the same league as these guys because we don't spend money like they do. It almost feels like you're setting your team up for failure and you know you're going to get your ass kicked. And then you want to, after the game, go back and say, see, I told you, this is what happens when we play a team that spends so much money on football.
His buyout on the restructure is about $15 million if they want to fire him after this
He has another year like he had last year. He will get fired.
I think if he's less than 8 wins, I think they're going to look to move on. Because
he's a legend there. He played there. I get it. He's been great for a long time.
But 20 years is, dude, most coaches are lucky to ever get that kind of run.
It's ran its course, man.
You got to make the best move possible. You cannot continue to flounder in this generation and fall behind. You're in the Big 12, by the way.
Yes, you are.
That's not even that strong of a conference.
The conference is wide open. Wide open. The Big 12 was up for grabs last year, and they went 0-9 in conference.
We'll see what they do. Backup quarterback, an unknown there.
Maybe he shocks the world.
Lanning talked multiple times this week about the tempo. It's the fastest tempo they've played. I don't know if that's going to matter. I think Oregon has horses that are just – it's different. And so I think with the comments paired with talent difference, I think it's going to get ugly in Eugene. But maybe I'll be wrong come Monday.
We'll see if Kenyon Sadiq shoves another grown man into the ground. Or jumps over one. We'll see.
Do that to any team in the country. I mean, that kid
play that Kenyon Sadiq bingo card. Hurdling and stiff-arming guys. How many times does he do it on Saturday?